the playbook to help you take your marriage to the next level. So why do you think this is important and timely?
Oh my goodness. I think that marriages, there's an assault on the family.
Yeah.
Number one. But I think that there's things that we don't know how to have healthy, authentic conversations around.
Yeah.
So sex, porn, addiction, things that like maybe we go to the church for help, but they don't exactly know how to address it because there's not, like you can address it from a sin standpoint.
Sure.
And so there just produces guilt and shame and earning. But if you add the clinical and you fuse in the practical to the spiritual, you're going to get a healthy mind, body, soul, spirit connection. You're going to begin to go back and look at, hey, this is not about treating behavior. This is about treating pain in family of origin, where it starts. Because we have to go back because there's always a root to the fruit. And behaviors are symptoms of good or bad.
Yeah.
Like you can see a good tree produces good fruit.
Yeah.
Unhealthy tree is going to produce pain.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times we end up Google searching and then we're down a spiral of weird things that you can find on the internet.
Yes.
Or you go to your medical doctor and they're going to give you a clinical thing. Or to your point, you go to the church, you get a spiritual answer.
Yes.
So I love the fusion of how you're putting the clinical and the spiritual together. It's a holistic representation. So I feel like you add so much depth while it's still being accessible.
Yes. Yeah. I wanted to make it very relatable. That was really important to me because when it's too clinical or too spiritual, you're going to turn people off and lose them, right? But I also wanted to create something that this also has video to go with it.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So there is downloadable video teachings with every session. So not everybody's comfortable talking about porn or sex. So, hey, let's listen to this for 10 minutes and then have a conversation around it where there's no shame, where it's out in the open. It's already been like the cat's out of the bag, right?
Yeah.
So let's heal it and go after it.
And I love that
being empowered.
Yeah. And I love that each section is so short. Like you're covering things. And in full transparency, she asked me to go through it as a psychologist to say, you know, what's your thoughts and opinion? So I went through it for myself and it was like, were you verbally abused? And I was like, no. And all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, I was. And it was because of your workbook that then I even got more freedom. So
thank you.
Applaud to you. And it's easy. It's accessible where you're not like, oh, this is like 12 pages of a manual. It's just really well-crafted short snippets. And then, did I say that word right?
You said it right.
And then now you have like these little prompts and these questions and you can go through it at your own pace, but it's really digestible. It looks like it could be done for like a retreat or even like a morning devotional.
I actually wrote it for a retreat. I wrote this for a retreat that I wanted to do for marriages, for a weekend intensive. And because I love betrayal and intimacy and sex addictions. And I love working with couples coming out of that want to heal and restore. But I wrote it for that. And then I had some friends look at it and some other pastors, they're like, Charla, there's no groups curriculum out like this. Like make this into a curriculum. And I was like, oh, and I went and prayed about it. And it was like, this is curriculum. So you can do it in a small group. You can do it just you and your husband, or you're and your partner or your boyfriend. You can do it yourself because before you were the two of you, there you were. Like wherever you go, there you are. And so you bring with you what you had.
Yeah,
it didn't just get magically, appear on the day you got married.
Exactly.
Like you brought it with you. We always talk about the dysfunction of your parents and grandparents. So like you in your family of origin, you get the good, the bad, the ugly, the dysfunction, the brokenness, abuse, everything.
Yeah.
And that piles down on you. And so you're carrying that into you. And if it's not reconciled and not healed, well, it's going to manifest because the past repeats.
Yeah.
History repeats itself.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's important we look.
So I think it's helpful to look through even the SWOT section where couples can start saying, hey, we know we love each other. We got married for a reason. We enjoy each other. But all of a sudden the wheels are coming off. The conversation's getting clunky. Yes. And the natural thought is, did I marry the wrong person? I am a slave to the rest of my life to this ball and chain, like whatever the narrative might become. What are practical things that couples can be looking at to say, hey, maybe there's some areas of improvement, even preventatively before the wheels fall off, that we can be doing some assessments for ourselves?
I think one of the main things that I see, because when I see clients that come in and they're in a crisis, they don't associate or equate it with the past. It's just like your behavior, you're doing this, you're doing that, and you're making me mad.
Yeah. blaming and shaming.
And it's the blaming and the shaming. And so like when we go in, one of the natural things to do before you ever even start really going into any kind of trauma therapy is to assess like where you're at right now. And
let me pause you. Trauma therapy doesn't mean you had some horrific trauma. It's any area of our life that's just unhealed, unresolved, and there's still a bit of a trigger. So when you know that you're like, I'm a normal person, all of a sudden your emotions are saying something else and this person is to blame, you might have trauma in your background. And it doesn't have to be like you were raped in the backseat of a car. Like anything could be a trauma. So keep going just in case people think that doesn't apply to them.
It does, because I'm so glad that you said that. It's not this big thing. It's just a reminder sometimes of a familiar pattern or a behavior and something where there was injustice even. I see that a lot. Injustice.
Absolutely.
So like I created a SWOT analysis because I was just like your strengths, weaknesses, evaluating where you're at and what we see. And so I think some of the most important things to look at are people. Like, if you're wrongly aligned, you're going to be wrongly assigned. I say that in leadership. I do that with leadership, with leaders, as CFOs, CEOs. It's like, who's on your tribe? Who's in your team? And what are you looking at? And so,
so if I were a couple and I'm hearing that going, yeah, I'm wrongly aligned, dump the person. What is your actual heart behind that statement?
My heart behind that is, who's your tribe? Because even in your own, like we're supposed to cheer for one another. Like healthy people can run in your lane, celebrate somebody going ahead, celebrate their healthy marriage over here. Oh, they're going on vacation. Look, they get 3 vacations a year. Oh, look, they've got a new house now. So then you look at it and it's like, am I comparing? What am I doing? Are these people for me? Are they saying, yeah, your husband's really a loser and he really shouldn't treat you like that. And I don't know if you've made the right choice.
Like feeding your own offense.
Yes. And so what are the people around you doing? Do you have a healthy tribe around you? Do you have do you find yourself maybe even, because it's also not just like what's around y'all, it's what's around you.
Yeah.
And so like, have I become infatuated with my work or my boss? Do I value what my boss and my colleagues at work are saying? Do I find myself going, hey, listen, we're going to be working late. Hey, we're going to go to happy hour. Hey, we're, I've got this work thing.
Yeah.
And then we're taking away from time.
Yeah.
Are we valuing other people in alignments over our spouse?
Or even family commitments. Sometimes the extended family can trump.
It can.
And then you're not actually investing.
Dads,
the quality time together.
Oh, yeah. You can do that, but it also, it comes down to value. Like, am I valuing the opinions and thoughts of others? Am I being swayed by that?
Yeah.
How much influence is there?
And I love the thought that there's moments that my intent is not always the impact. So if you're listening and you're like, oh, my intent is really great. I'm staying at work because we need provision, we need success, I'm getting a promotion, this is for the family. But is that the impact? Am I equally investing the time when I am present, or am I still kind of checking emails and always kind of got my brain running that I'm not actually present? So you may tell yourself, I may tell myself, my intent is really good. This group of friends, me venting, letting off steam might be good, but is the impact actually yielding good fruit in your life, in your marriage, in your relationships? And it's good to actually ask the person. So I think that's where the SWOT comes in, that you're doing an assessment together and not just, of course, I'm a great spouse.
There will always be someone, usually the other person feels has more of your time and more of your attention than you do, or that you value them over you, or you listen to them more, you take their advice. I've been saying this to you for 5 years and now so-and-so says it and you're going to listen to it all of a sudden? Like, what am I, chopped liver?
Yeah.
Those kind of things. Yeah, it can be infuriating. But the worst, I think the other thing that we have to pay attention to, as well as external influences, is what is internally influencing you. Like, are you aligned with heaven? Are you aligned with your emotions and your feelings? Because your emotions and feelings will lie to you. They lie. They are created to serve us and not rule us.
Come on, you got to say that one again.
Your feelings and your emotions are created to serve you and not rule you. I have this joke that I'm always saying. I'm like, listen, I talk to my emotions and my feelings like I do. I'm like, you better get in that back seat and buckle up and be quiet. Because you are not driving this car today. Like, that's what I'm telling myself. I'm like, I love you. I bless you. I want to be friends with you, but you are not driving my bus.
Yeah.
I will not be ruled by you. And that's how, like, when we don't have, it says that a man who has no rule over his emotions is like a city whose walls are broken down.
Ooh, that's convicting. Yep.
And it's simply a boundary.
Yeah.
It's a whole boundary. There's a whole teaching on that I love on the Jebusites.
Yeah.
If you ever want to hear it, it's fun.
Absolutely.
But our own inner critic, what are we listening to?
So our own narrative about the relationship. So it's the people on the outside. I would say even like the TV shows, the social media, all the things, the narratives and culture that we're listening to. Is it promoting connection, or is it promoting self-indulgement where I get to be the God of my universe and my feelings and my perspective? Or is it heart to serve, to love the other one more than myself?
Exactly. What's it producing? What fruit? I think that's the other thing that you can always look at is the fruit of any relationship or anything, or situation or circumstance or job. What is it producing in me? Does it differ from the fruit of the Spirit? Because when you're aligned with, like, I think your divine, identity, you're going to be feeling those same things, the gentleness, the kindness. You're going to have peace. It's a manifestation of what you're carrying inside. It's an outward expression is going to match up.
Yeah. So I think after you hang out with someone or you watch something or you spend time in your own head or in a conversation with a person, you're checking like the fruit of the Spirit are love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. At the end of that conversation, whether it's with yourself or with someone else or something you've just given 3 hours binge watching, then recognize what is the fruit of that and now take responsibility. Do I want to continue to get that fruit in my life and think, oh yeah, they don't treat me right. Oh, I should get better, blah, blah, blah. Or is this something that's like, they challenge you in a loving way and they give you feedback that might not feel good, but it's the wounds of a friend can be trusted versus the kiss of an enemy that's like, oh girl, don't let him treat you like that. Or dude, don't let her put a ball and chain around you. Like that kind of friend, it may feel good to your flesh, but at the end of the day, it leads to destruction and there's a bigger ripple effect. I remember one day I had a conversation with a friend. It didn't go well. And my background, which we're going to do a whole episode on codependence, put my stuff out there. We are in it, guys. Like we're in the conversation. I'm having this moment with a friend and I don't say anything. So in essence, I don't show up, but who does show up is my inner narrative. I have a whole lot going on inside in the middle of the night.
A lot of conversations too with yourself.
A lot of conversation. I did not gossip. I did not say anything mean to a person, but my inner narrative is like, we're not compatible. We're just not going to get along. There's no future for this relationship. I had unilaterally made a decision about a relationship and the other person didn't even get input. They didn't even get to be a part of said conversation because I had unilaterally in my pride decided I am protecting myself. And the next day when I actually had the courage, because I'm working on it, and talk to the person, it was so beautiful. It was so peaceful. They were humble. I was humble. And then I was like, I am so grateful I didn't let my flesh just destroy that friendship.
That inner critic, rewind and replay are
sabotage. Be careful of sabotagers. It could be inside you, around you, or again, comparing your life to media, whether it's books, social media, film, TV, anything where your life is like, oh, I'm not as shiny, or they don't treat me like that. But then you discredit all the benefits and the good that is in the relationship, and you're discounting the benefit while not showing up for them either. So it creates a self-fulfilling prophecy in many of our relationships.
It really does. And the enemy of your soul will set up scenarios to confirm the lies that you already believe.
That's right.
He does. But I think that it's very important that you always evaluate what it is. Hey, how's this making me feel, self? Like that thought, that inner critic, like you were talking about, and the rewind and replay and the going over all these unilateral decisions that you're making in your head. But it's like you have to look at people around you, but you also have to look at the people within you.
Yeah. Yep. My committee members.
Your peoples, your committee members, your judge. So see what it's producing in your relationships. Is it producing health? Is it producing life? Righteousness, peace, and joy? Is it producing connection, intimacy? Or is it pushing you far away? And is it causing you to be the judge of the other person?
That's a key. That's a key. How would we know if we're being the judge versus truly showing up and having boundaries? Or,
one of the things that I think with boundaries that I've learned is the Holy Spirit told me one day that a boundary is like the fruit of self-control. It's simply, I'm going to love myself enough to say yes to what is good for me, what adds to me, what serves me and my family. And I'm going to love myself enough to say no. What does not serve me, what does not add to me, what does not bring me peace. And so us challenging and thinking about what we're doing, we go so fast in our relationships, in our life, in our work, in our busyness and schedules that we have more thoughts than freaking AT&T and Verizon and T-Mobile combined together in our neural networks, right?
Yes.
And so we have that going. We're not attuned to stopping and checking, what am I feeling? What am I thinking? What am I doing? Like, what is really the truth and what's not true?
Yeah.
And so I already basically forgot what you just asked me.
That's
because
great.
we went on a rabbit trail.
Because we're in a real conversation.
So I'm sorry about that. But what was the question that you just said?
Okay, the question was, when you're being the judge versus boundaries. So many people have a hard
Is
time
it rooted
discerning.
in love or not?
Whoa. Okay, say it again.
Is it rooted in love or not? Because that's the thing. If I can say to my husband, and we get into this whole thing about agreements and expectations and disappointment and what's the underlying current of what's going on with the judgment. So you actually helped me with this one time a couple of years ago. And I've never forgotten this conversation. I use it all the time in therapy too, because there is a difference with projection when I walk in and I'm like, I've had a bad day. And I'm like, my gosh, there is a spoon sitting on the thing. Doesn't anybody clean the kitchen besides me?
They don't
and
care
oh my
about
gosh,
me.
they don't care about me. So that's I'm projecting, right?
Sure.
And then there's, interjection. I'm watching TV and then all of a sudden I see a Andy's ice cream commercial and I'm like, oh, I need that turtle ice cream. I'm going to go get my keys and get in my car and I'm going to Andy's right now. Yeah. But then there's the introjection. And you taught me this because that critical judge, the accuser and the saboteur that work so beautifully together, right?
Dark Trinity.
And we can be coming out of that and it's out of our own wounding. That's why it's important that we look back because they will show up. And so it might be the voice of like what I've witnessed in my parenting. So in part of this, like at the very beginning of this, you're doing a whole letter to your spouse where you have to go, what did I observe with my parents this way?
Yeah.
Like,
that's the part where I realized I had verbal abuse as a child.
So what was modeled to me relation to relation, in authority to authority. Yeah. But then what was modeled to me this way? How did they communicate with me? Was it, were they talking down to me? Was it critical? Was it always, you need to be better, do better, act better? Was there an expectation? There's unspoken, unwritten, and uncommunicated rules, expectations,
Yeah, like this hidden rule book that I don't get to be privy of.
You're Crawford.
So you should just know, and you should just act that way.
Right? And so we get these things.
Yeah.
Kids don't have a prefrontal cortex, so we take on nothing but emotion, feeling, and we take false responsibility for our parents' emotions.
Yeah.
That's where that codependency can come in too. But when you're doing the analysis, finding out if that is your thoughts, how do I know if it's really rooted in love or not?
Yeah.
That's why. Because if you're carrying your own thing and that introjection's there, it might be the voice of like your protectors or your evil trinity of the accuser and the critical judge. And so I have to go back and make friends with them.
Yeah.